who can I get to come and lead us in prayer? Brother Roger, you haven't been up here in 2 or 3 days. I know you don't like to get up here, but you're one of our most faithful students.
Father, thank you for allowing us to come here this evening. Guide us and direct us with your word. Help us to take it in and use it throughout our life, especially in the coming week. Guide us and direct us in all ways. Thank you for all you've done for us. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. What are the 2 verb tenses in Hebrew? This is the test.
Perfect and imperfect.
Perfect and imperfect. What is the perfect, Brother Abe? Perfect tense. What? No, not perfect tense. Perfect. Perfect is completed action. Completed action. How about imperfect? Imperfect. That's continuous action. That's imperfect. Imperfect means imperfect. Perfect means completed. Imperfect means it's not completed. Okay? All right. What are the stems? What stems? How many stems are there in the Hebrew verb? How many stems? How many stem forms?
I say 7.
Huh? The number of perfection is 7. So it has 7. We have the call stem. Call. All right? That would mean like Katal, he killed. The Nifal, he was killed. All right, that's simple passive. The call is simple active. The PL stem is intensive active. That is, he killed violently and brutally. The Puel is intensive passive. He was brutally and violently killed. And the Hithpael, the intensive reflexive, he violently murdered himself. And then we have Hithil, the causative active, he was caused to kill himself. And then the Hophel is the causative passive, he was caused to kill. He was caused to kill. All right. He was caused to kill. Does that help you when I review this?
Mm-hmm.
All right, because this is how you do. You've got to understand the Hebrew language is verbs. Verbs are extremely important. The nouns are important, but not near so important as the verb forms. The verb forms in Hebrew really tell you the story. That's how you get your theology straight, is through the verb stems. The nouns, Hebrew is a very limited, in many ways, Hebrew is a limited language on vocabulary. In some ways, it is more advanced than Greek, believe it or not, like the word to sin. The word to sin, there are many words to sin in Hebrew, and means all different avenues of sinning. Okay, all different ways of sinning. One of these days I will teach that class to you on just to sin. Would you like that? All right, we don't like sin, but we can look at it in every avenue, and you can just see yourself in the mirror. All right. 16 and verse number 13. 16 and verse number 12. 13, that is. 16 verse number 13. Let's look at this. Waihi, Ba'erev, Wa Ta'al, Ha Si Lo, Wa Tikas, Et, Ha Ma Chane, Yu Boker, Hayata, Shikvat, Ha Ta'al, Saviv, La ma chena. Wahi. What is the root of wahi? What's the root of wahi? What do we have on the front of that verb right there? We have something on the front of it attached to it. What is the first letter there? What is that? You know that one, Sharon? The first one. Cindy, you know that one? What's attached to this wahi? What's on the front of it? Brother Roger. What? Wa. Wa. And wa is what? That's a conjunction. So on the front of this verb here is a conjunction. And that conjunction is what? And. All right, and. As we go on a little bit further in the language, I want you to understand what's happening here, how this is. So, and he became. That's how you translated wahi. The wa is the and, okay, and then wahi, this comes from haya, and look down there at the bottom, it's third person masculine and singular, cal, wow, consecutive, and perfect, and I didn't put it down there, but it's supposed to have this down there also. It's supposed to have that. That's the root. So you guys write your root down there. That's the root of that verb, okay?
It's actually there.
What?
It's there right after the 243.
Oh, I did write it down there, okay. I just didn't read my own writing. It's too small. I apologize because I'm going blind. I can only see the big stuff. I can see the big stuff. When it gets down there, it's too small. I've got too many floaters and too many blank spots now. My wife will bring something to me and she said, read this. And I said, I can read it. What do you bring something for me? I can't read it. And it's a miracle that I can stand up here and do what I'm doing. I'm telling you, it's not possible, but I'm doing it. Ba'erev. Ba'erev. All right, ba'erev. Now, break that word down for me now. What do we have here? What's on the front of this word? What's on the front of this word? There is a preposition on the front of it, page 88. Okay? What is that preposition?
It's the bet,
Beth. Yeah, Beth.
which means
Okay.
and then out of this evening hours.
Yes. All right, sunset. When the sun's going down. In evening. In evening. That Beth tell you it's in. See down there, it says preposition, page 88. See that? Right on the front of that. So we're breaking down these words, okay? Because Hebrew is shorthand. Hebrew is like shorthand. Greek is a long explanation, but Hebrew, you can get a very long sentence or phrase out of one word because it's made combinations. In sunset, all right? And then wa ta'al, wa ta'al. So what do we have here? Wa ta'al. Translate that for me. What is it? How do we say? Look down there and read and tell me what that is. Third person, feminine, singular. So what is that? She. All right, she. Cal, wow, consecutive, imperfect. It comes from Allah. See that? Allah. 748, 828. And it should read here, and she came up. And she came up. Okay? And she came up. Now, what's she there? What is she that came up? The quail. All right. Ha-salah. Ha-salah. And right on the front of that, and is and she came up. Wa ta'al. And she came up the quail. Ha-has-silah. Silah is a quail. Ha is a definite article, okay? A definite article in Greek is just a definite article, period. You don't have to have a masculine, feminine, and neuter. In Greek, it's masculine, feminine, or neuter. Here, it's just ha. The quail came up. 969. And Brown, Driver, and Briggs. 969. Let's look at this. 969. All right. Quail. Cotunni communis. All right. It is a chicken-like creature. It has white meat. You know how many people you want white meat? Everybody wants white meat. Okay? Quail is white meat. All the quail is white meat. It's all like prime. Okay? And Exodus 16 and verse 13. Quail is a foreign word to Hebrew. It comes from Syriac and comes from Arabic. Okay? This is a large quail, a large partridge. In Greek, it is ortux megas, ortux megas. Ortux megas in Greek. Ortux megas. It's like a large. These weren't little bitty quail like you see the little bobwhite quail and things like this. This is a large partridge tart, more like a small, like a banty almost, like a banty chicken. Some of you know what a banty chicken is. It's a game chicken that they bred till it was small. Ortus megas. What does megas mean in Greek? Huh? Big. All right. You megasize things. You know, when the old McDonald's, you megasize it. Well, that comes from megas. So this is a large bird, a large edible delicacy. Okay, a large edible delicacy. It's on page 717 in Davidson. Okay. He per megathes in the Septuagint. He per megathes. Big quail. God, when He gave them something, He was going to give them the best. God always wants the best for you, doesn't He? He always wants the best for you. He tries to give you the best. We don't deserve it, but He tries to give us the best. And He gave them the best delicacy they could think of. Quail, this type of quail is almost like a pheasant. You know, in very high society, pheasant under glass was something that they, you used to hear about. Pheasant under glass, everybody. When I went to my friend Photios Kiriakou's house, his wife served pheasant under glass. I was a guest of honor. I don't know why. I was a guest of honor. The president or the prime minister of Greece was there, and the admiral of the Greek Navy was there. And I was a guest of honor. They set me right at the head of the table, and all the rest of them are down. And the table is as long as this room is here. And they had pheasant under glass. You had to watch out for the buckshot. But it's pheasant under glass because Fody had gone out and killed all these pheasants. So this is a very beautiful delicacy. And she went up, the quail, and she covered. Let's look at this now. And she covered. Let's look at this word. Watakos. Say watakos. Okay. And she covered. Third person feminine singular. What stem is that? What stem is that? What's it say there? PL stem. So what does that mean? Intensely. I mean, she covered. All right. These quails, the she covered. Third person singular and feminine, PL, while consecutive imperfect. And it's also got a conjunction on the front of it. So that's and she covered powerfully, intensely. Powerfully, intensely. And then we have the, what is that other thing there? Lots of goodies up there. What is that et there? What's et? Et. What's the Greek equivalent of this et? Ace. That's assigned to the direct object. That's where it's going. Good to have you people here tonight. And then hamachene. Hamachene. The whole encampment. The encampment. That word ha on the front of that is what? Exodus 16 and verse 17. Or 16 and verse 13. Exodus 16:13. We're talking about the quail coming into the encampment of Israel. Okay? And what kind of quail were these? Large quail, just about like a pheasant. Big, big quail. All right? And they were gigantic quail. And they covered the ground thoroughly, and they were packed in there in the camp. Okay? They packed, and she covered intensely the encampment. All right? And then it says, Yuvah Boker. Yuvah Boker. The first bait there is what, Brother Roger? That's a soft one. Okay? Yuvah Boker. Yuvah Boker. Now the second bait there is a double bait. Yuvah Boker. And in daybreak. All right? And in daybreak. Now let's break this word down. Where is the and? That's the wall. Okay, where is the preposition? That's a bait. And then we have the word boker, which is the root of it, which means in the break of day, when the sun is just coming over the horizon. Okay? In the break of day, in daybreak, what other word comes from this word boker? Boker. Cows. Because a large cow, you can hook up a yoke on it, and you can break ground with a plow. And that's what the word boker comes from. Okay? To break ground with a plow. Christine, I got a bunch of DVDs here for you. Okay? In the break of day, and, all right, then we have the word hayata. And she became, or she had become, literally, third person feminine singular cow perfect, and she had become laying, shikabot, okay, laying night mist, all right, laying night mist, the hot ta'al, the night mist, around about to the encampment, around about to the encampment. Now let's look at verse number 14, 16:14. 16:14. All right. Wata'al. Shikvat. Hata'al. Wihene. Al. Panei. Ha midbar. Dog. Michush pas. Dog. Ka ki for. All ha'aretz. Third person feminine singular cow while consecutive imperfect. That's that first verb there. And what does it have on the front of it? A conjunction, which is and. Wa ta'al. Okay. And she went up. All right. She went up laying. Night mist. All right. The night mist went up laying. And behold, this is the dew. How many of you have been out in the morning when the dew falls? Or rises, or whatever you want to call it? It just lays on the grass. Have you ever slept out on the lawn there, Schrader? And you wake up with dew all over you? All right. That's what it's talking about there. And behold, upon all is upon preposition. What would it be in Greek? What would that preposition be in Greek? All. What would it be? Cindy, you know what that preposition be in Greek? What's upon in Greek? Page 153 and 54. Epi. Epi. Okay. Epi would be the Greek equivalent. Upon the panei. Panei. Panei means face. Everything has a face. You have a face. The earth has a face. The sky has a face. The waters have a face. Okay? And that's what, and they use it, and that in Hebrew, this panei is what we talk about. And in Greek, the face is prosopon. Something that you come against, your face, your prosopon, your face. Behold the face of the whole wilderness. Ha-midbar. Remember what this wilderness means here, this idea of the wilderness? It's a treckless place with no highway. You have to have a guide. I used to be a guide in the Greenhorn Mountains. I used to be a guide up on the Home Ranch. I used to be a guide and a hunting guide in the Paiute Mountains and in the White Mountains of Nevada and California. Guides. People go up there and they get lost. People get lost. J.J. Lopez left up here at Tajon Ranch, this was back in the 1800s, and left with like 50,000 head of sheep and drove them. They were supposed to take them to Montana and up into Wyoming, and he drove them through the place where I lived up there, and he got out there and almost died. He had a guide that wasn't qualified to lead them. And that's what it means. This is a treckless. This is a cow trail, only a cow trail. I remember when I lived in Fish Lake Valley, a rich man bought the Cord Ranch. And they had cattle on the Cord Ranch that had been there forever. Generations of cows that he had. They were good cattle. But he took them up there, and they had grass pasture up high in the White Mountains, way high, 13,000 feet up there. And they would drive the cattle up there, and the cattle had to know the trail. Some of the cowboys didn't know the trail, but the cattle knew the trail. And they could train new cowboys, but they had to have old cattle. And they had to, and the cows would follow a trackless trail all the way up what is called Patterson Creek or Perry Aiken Creek. They would take them up through there, start driving them, and the cows would break through the brush. They would break through the brush and make a trail, and the cowboys would follow behind, because they put the old cows in the front. This is a trackless wilderness. And that real smart, rich guy that bought that ranch up there got rid of all of those cows and got rid of all these cowboys, and he couldn't even find the pasture. He was in a wilderness. This is the word for wilderness here, a trackless area. And they had to have a guide. And who was that guide? Moshe. Moshe. To draw out to rescue, and he rescued them many times out there in this trackless. And then dog is small. The wilderness small. Okay. Now this mist was small. Oh, that's rock, a dog that is. Dog means small. And then we have this word michaspas. Michaspas. It means being like a scale. How many of you ever gone fishing? Okay. And what kind of fish have little scales? Sardines have little bitty scales. Trout have a little small scale. And of course big fish have big scales, like your, well, I'm going to tell you something's got a big scale, and that's a carp. It's a big goldfish, but they have large scales. But this means like small scales, okay? Being like small scales, masculine, puel participle. Small, like hoarfrost, kikafor, like hoarfrost, upon the earth, el ha'aretz, upon the earth, upon the dry ground. 16 verse 15 now, Wayeru, Bene, Yisrael, Wayomaru, Ish, El Achi, Man, Hu, Ki, Lo, Yadu, Ma, Hu, Wyomer, Moshe, Alehem, Hu, Halehem, Asher, Natan, Halabar, Lechem, Liakla. And they looked, and kept on looking. Look at that word. Where did the word look come from there? This is Jehovah Roe, comes from this word. Jehovah that was seen. That was seen. Okay? We saw Jehovah. Okay? With on the front of it is a conjunction. All right? Third person masculine plural. And they looked, and it's cal, while, consecutive, and perfect. What kind of a calcium is what? That means active. Okay? While, consecutive, and perfect. What does that mean? They saw it, but they kept on doing it. Now, it's not in the imperfect tense thoroughly, but this is while, consecutive, and perfect. It means they looked for a while. They looked for a while. Okay? And they looked, Vinay, the sons, all right? Sons means what? According to a pattern. That young lady back there, she's according to a pattern. I knew her mother when she was much younger, and she looked just like you. And you look just like your mother. All right. Of Israel, sons of Israel. What's Israel mean? Men who wrestled with God. Ish, what we got on the front of it is Sari, which means to wrestle. Sarah comes from that name. She means one who wrestles or one who contends. And we get the word Sari also means a prince or a warrior. And then El means what on the end of it? El. God. God. One who wrestles is God. Wayomaru. Wayomaru. And they said and kept on saying, third person masculine plural, while, cal, stem, while, consecutive, and perfect. What's the root of that? What's the root of this word? Wayomaru. Let's tear it down. What? Amer. Okay, here is Amer. That's the root of it. That's where it's made up right there. And on the front of it, we have a while, which is what? And a conjunction. All right? And the rest of this down here tells us it actually conjugates that verb for us and tells you who did it. Okay? So look at this now. It's Amer is the root of it. All right? Amer is the root, and it's Wayomaru. And they said, third person masculine, plural, cal, while, consecutive, and perfect. That word, that resh, and that while on the end of it there with a dit in the middle of it, that tells you they said it. All right? Wa on the front of it, it says, and they said. And they said, ish. What does ish mean? What's ish mean? Man. Ish. What's isha mean? Out of man. Woman means out of man, literally. If you look it up in the woman up in the English dictionary, it'll say out of man. All right? Isha means out of man, but this is mankind, and this means each male. What would it be if it said Adam there? Adam. What is Adam in Hebrew? Adam. Okay, aner would be this word. Aner would be this word in Greek, which means male. Okay, what would be the word in Greek for human or man, kind? Anthropos. We get a word anthropology from that word. Okay, each man. Okay, anthropos, aner, unto his el achi. Achi there means his brother. His brother. Mon. Mon. That word mon comes from what? Ma, which means what? And so they said when they saw this stuff, they said, what is it? Mon. What is it? Manna. Manna, we get the word manna, comes right out of Hebrew. It doesn't explain it. When we said, and they had in the Ark of the Covenant, they had a pot of what is it? Not manna, but what is it? All right? So manna means what is it? What? Ma-hu. Hu mean it. All right? What is it? What is it? Man-hu. What is it? That word "you" there is like a third-person pronoun, okay, or a demonstrative pronoun, more like a demonstrative pronoun. So what is that here? What is that? What is he? What is he? Okay. Key for not, little adverb of negation. They had known, third-person construct plural, perfect tense. Not they had known what, ma. See there you have the word ma, what. She, it. She, it. All right? What is it? What?
Are they just using correct English by translating who as that, who as she in the two different instances?
You mean in the Bible itself?
Right, like in the sentence before is what is that, and in this sentence is what is she?
Okay, let's get it. Christine, do you have your Bible here? You got your Bible? You want to come up there and read that in English? Let's read these last three verses, 13, 14, and 15 in English. 13, 14, and 15.
Right. It says, so it was that quails came up at evening and covered the camp, and in the morning the dew lay all around the camp. And when the layer of the dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a small round substance as fine as frost on the ground. So when the children of Israel saw it, they said to one another, what is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, this is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat.
All right. Now, the Hebrew gives it a gender. So we know what God called it, what gender he called it. Okay? And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the gender of it. We're looking at the gender. What gender did the quail have? She. She, the quail. She. All right? Now let's look at this. This, the bread. All right? This to them, Moses, and he said, not had known what she is, and he said, Moses to them, this, the bread, which he has given. All right? Look at the word natan. Natan. Natan, that comes from the word natan in Hebrew, which means to give. In early American history, Natan Lupe was the name of General Crook. That was the Apache name for Crook. That means the gray wolf. Natan Lupe. All right? Here the word Natan means to give. To give. To give. Which he has given Jehovah to you for food. Li'akala. Now look at these two words for food. Let's go back up. Ha-lehem. Look at that word ha-lehem there, the bread. Ha-lehem, what does the word bread mean? What does the word bread mean? Here. What is this? Bethlehem. You remember what Bethlehem? You know where Jesus was born? Bethlehem? That means Bethlehem. That comes from this word right here. Beth means what? House of food. Now, it doesn't just mean bread. It means nutritious food of all kinds. It means food, okay? Food. Now we have over here on the next word, the next page, which is the second part, Beth, or this second part of this, we have la akala. It comes from the word akal. Akal. And now what akal mean? What does akal mean in Hebrew? Anybody know what akal means? Goodies. That means goodies. This is treats. That's like those cookies up there. All right? This is real good eats. This is tasty stuff. Now, what he gave them was the best kind. We looked that up just before you got here, Chris, where we looked up what all these quail were that are very large delicacies. Now, he gave them the best quail, and now he's going to give them a food that tastes just like dessert. He's got meat, and now he's got dessert. And what did that dessert taste like? Cindy, you remember what that dessert tastes like? It says in the Bible what it tastes like. Huh? Pancakes with syrup on it. That's what they like. How many of you like pancakes with syrup on it? All right? That's what it tastes like. This manna, when they baked it, it tastes like pancakes with honey on it. Pancakes and honey. Waffles for breakfast. Waffles for breakfast. Okay? Waffles for lunch. Waffles for dinner. And all of that delicate, tasty quail. Yes, chicken. The chicken and waffle shop. That's right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is the bread on the other side, or whatever it was,
Lahem?
in the female form? Is it because it's life-giving?
Yes. A lot of it. The word, well, the quail is feminine. I think manna may be masculine. I'm not sure, but we'll go on and we'll find out exactly what it is. But there's different genders to everything. Okay, different genders. Now let's go on to verse 16 now. 16 and verse 16. Zeh, Hadavar, Asher, Si Awa, Hadavar, Likter, Liktu, that is, Liktu. Had my finger over the word. I thought it was a resh. Mimenu, Ish, Lefi, Akilo, Almer, Lagul Golet, Mishpar, Ha Fa Sho Tikem, Ish La Asher, Bi A Holo, Tik Ka Chu. This, that, all right? This is like a demonstrative pronoun. This here, that over there, this here, ekainos, tuto in Greek, all right? This here, the word, all right? This is the word, the statement, the edict, which Jehovah has made, the edict. Now, he called them out of Egypt. God called Israel out of Egypt, and he called them into a wilderness land. Now, they looked at that wilderness land. Chris, would you mind going up there and turning that thing because it went off, the timer went off? You have to lift that little paper up to do it. I forgot to do it. Now, God called Israel out of Egypt by the way of Moses, by using Moses. Moses lived 40 years as a prince of Egypt, didn't he? And then 40 years, what was his next 40 years doing? Being a shepherd in a trackless wilderness. Training. 40 years so he'd know the Egyptian mind, because these Jews might have been in Egypt, but Egypt was in these Jews. Okay? They didn't even know the name of their God or anything about God at all. All they do is held on to a promise. We got a goodie here that says, Joseph says, don't leave my bones here. Take my bones out because we're going to go to the promised land, and it's a land flowing with milk and honey. So they said, goodies. God's going to take us out of there. But they got accustomed to all of the great delicacies of Egypt while they were there. Okay? And they don't have much foresight. All they go out there, they look out there and they see the Reed Sea, and they got to cross this mud hole to get over there, and Pharaoh's army is behind them, and so God blows a hole through that Reed Sea and opens it up and dries the quicksand out, and they walk on dry land, and then when Pharaoh starts coming in there with his armies, they all sink in mud, and they're drowned. They're all drowned. Then they're on the other side, and they get out there, and then the first thing they do is sing a song. Yay for Jehovah! Look what he did to us. We did all this and everything else. And a few days later, they get out there, and what are they saying? We're out here. God called us out of here. Wasn't there enough graveyards in Egypt to have us come out here and be buried out here in this trackless sand? Okay? And then that's where we are right now. Then God begins to feed them miraculously. They're out here. How many people left Egypt? Probably. We don't have an exact number, but there were lots of them. There was probably 1.5 million, maybe 2 million, 2.5 million. It doesn't tell you exactly how many they were, but not only the Jews left Egypt, but who else left with them? Believing Egyptians. There were a lot of believing Egyptians that left because they believed they were miraculous. They saw the miracles of God, and they saw that the gods of Egypt were done away with. God overcame, Jehovah overcame all the gods of Egypt. And so they left, and they went out with Egypt, with Israel from Egypt, yes.
If they had been so indoctrinated in Egypt and they had kind of turned away from God, then who or what was that remnant that showed them God and kept that fire burning? You know what I'm saying? Like because I know that they were worshiping the Egyptian gods and they were doing their customs, and so what kept that going that they would listen to this man?
How many of you know Jewish people? They're very proud of their heritage. And their heritage is a mythological, Brother Roger, it is a mythological history. It is not really all truth. But they believe that, okay? They believe this mythological history of theirs, that they had all this, they carried down here, and they were always obedient to God's Word. Well, we know that just isn't true. We know that. And they feel like they're just they're God's chosen people. And they are God's chosen people. Yeah. They could have been the bride of Christ, but they lost that, and God divorced them. God is going to use them in the end time. All right? They are going to be the administrators of God's kingdom for 1,000 years on this earth. That is their lot. Administrators of God's kingdom for 1,000 years. That's their lot. They will never be in the closeness with God that they were before. But they will be in a physical, material world where they will rule on this earth for Christ, which is with His bride on the throne above the earth. See, they've separated themselves from God forever. But God, according to the promise of the Father, it's the promise of the Father. Now just think about it for a little while. When God told Abraham that I will make you a mighty nation and I'll give you all this land, did He ever have it? No. He never had it, but he believed it. How about, who was his son? Who was Abraham's son? He had 3 of them. Did all three of them become mighty nations? Yes. Alexander the Great came from Abraham's loins. Couture. We have all the Japhethites today through Keturah that conquered the whole world that are from the loins of Abraham. We have all of the Hamitic races over there, and the Hamitic and the Shemites crossed up, which became Arabs. We have all the Arab races. How many people are in the Arab nations? Gobs, millions. These are from Abraham. And of course, all of the Jews are from him. If you really take your DNA, you'll probably find out that you're part Jewish. And you're at least go back to Abraham, back to the Shemites, to one place. Okay? It'll trace you back to that Fertile Crescent, back to Abraham. Abraham was given a promise, and God is going to keep that promise. He passed it on to Isaac, and Isaac passed it on to Jacob. And Jacob was one of the greatest men of God in the Bible. I've heard so many people preach him down, but that man was a great man of God. And he had 12 sons, and most of them were rats. But they were told the promise. And when they went down there, according to the book of Jasher, every patriarch, every one head of every tribe was put in a coffin in Egypt, and all of their bodies, their bones were carried out of Egypt, and they were buried in their allotments in the promised land. They carried them out. But you asked the question a minute ago. What happened? What happened with all of this? How many of them believed? How many of them didn't believe? How many of these people made it into the promised land? Literally. That left Egypt. How many? Count them on one finger, or on one hand, that is, 2 fingers on one hand. 2, who were they? Joshua and Caleb. That's all. All the rest of them had died because they didn't believe God. They weren't worthy to walk into the promised land. Joshua and Caleb did. And Joshua and Caleb, when they went into the promised land, they saw these giants, these Nephilim, these great big people. And when they saw them, these other 10 spies that went into the land, what did they say when they came back? The land's flowing with milk and honey, but it's also walking with giants, and we don't want any of it. Let's go back home. And God got mad. When Joshua and Caleb come back, they came carrying what? Grapes, giant. They carried between a pole 2 giant clumps of grapes. Right? And look at this. And they said, the land is good, it's flowing with milk and honey and lots of grapes. And all these other guys, oh, there's giants in the land. They said, give us the mountain where the giants are. We'll take it. That's what Joshua and Caleb said. And that's Hebron. That's Hebron. That's where the giants were, Hebron. Give us the land where the giants are, we'll take it. And then God said, you were not worthy to go in the land, so he said, you cannot go in the land. All of you are going to die in the wilderness without ever possessing the land. But he took care of them out there. And then what did the rats do? They were always rebellious. Even these rats that were afraid to go in the land, what did they try to do? Who remembers? They tried to go in there and take the land. And God got them killed. He wasn't with them because they wouldn't listen. All right, let's go on a little bit further. This, the word which he had commanded. Look at that word, he had commanded. Third person masculine singular, PL, perfect. All right, he had commanded Jehovah, Hadavar. Now, every time we see the word Jehovah there, I translate it Hadavar, which means the word. Because John's writings, the Gospel of John, 1st and 2nd and 3rd John, and the book of Revelation all use the word or refer to Jehovah. And it's Hadavar, or Hologos, the word. 19th chapter of the book of Revelation, it's talking about the Word. The Word. That's talking about Jehovah. And when they looked at that word in the Old Testament, when they came and looked at this name, Jehovah, in the Old Testament, they would put down, they'd say, Hadavar, or the Word. They could not say his name. They were afraid to say his name. Once they got the law of Moses, it said, thou shalt not use the Lord thy God's name in vain. Literally what it says, you shall not keep on using the Lord your God's name in vain. So they never spoke it again. They were afraid to. Jehovah, gather. All right, masculine plural, cal imperative. Gather from him each man 2 mouths. 2 is for his mouth. This is going to go in your mouth. To eat. All right, akilah. To eat him. Look at that word. Now this man is him. To eat him. Cal, infinitive, suffix, third person, masculine, singular. They're going to eat this manna, and the manna is a him. And then they're going to have it. The word Omer comes right out of Hebrew. Omer. Omer. What does Omer mean, young lady? You know what Omer means? How about you, young man? You know what Omer means? Anybody here know what Omer means? Cindy, you got an idea about Omer? Sharon? Omer. 2 quarts. 2 quarts. 2 quarts. Where else do we have an allotment in the Bible? Where else do we have a ration or allotment? In the 6th chapter of the book of Revelation, it tells how much a man will work his whole day's wages for when the economy changes in the end times. How much he will get. How much food. Do you eat 2 quarts of food a day, Schrader? Probably more than 2 quarts, okay? How about you, young lady? You got up to 2 quarts yet? Probably 2 quarts. All right, 2 quarts of food. That's quite a little bit of food. Now, 2 quarts of barley and 2 quarts of wheat a day, that's a lot, isn't it? You could subsist really, really easy on that. Now, this is 2 quarts of dessert a day. 2 quarts of pancakes. 2 quarts of waffles with honey on them. Real good stuff. They had IHOP every day. Of course, we don't have IHOP around, International House of Pancakes. You know, we don't have that anymore. I remember when I was young and going to high school, I got some money one time, and I was at BHS High School, and I walked down to IHOP. And I went in there and ordered some pancakes, and I put strawberry and blueberry and maple syrup and all kinds of stuff on them. Blackberry, everything. I had a ball. This pancake got one thing, this pancake, I cut the pancakes in half, and I put syrup on each one of them. They had that every day. They had it every day. One time my grandpa gave me some money, a dime, for chopping wood for him. I loved to chop wood when I was a little kid. I just loved to chop wood. And I chopped all his wood up, and he gave me a dime, and I went down to the early garden market over there in East Bakersfield, and I had tasted this butterscotch stuff. How many of you ever had butterscotch? And I went down there, and I bought this jar of butterscotch, and I got a spoon, and I ate the whole thing. I never ate butterscotch again. And I think that's what Israel did here. They ate so much of it, they gorged themselves on it, that they wanted something different. They wanted to go back and eat angerns. You know, you know what angerns are? That's Oklahoma for onions. Okay, they wanted onions. 2 quarts. 4 laki laggul lagulet. For each head count. This is what we call for the head, the pole. The head number is what it literally means. From the arithmetic of, all right, that word means something written. It means to scribe something. It's from Chaldee, which means book. All right? This word comes from Chaldee, which means book. Ha-Sefer Yashur. What did I just say? Ha-Sefer Yashur. Brother Roger, what did I just say? Anybody know what I just said? Ha-Sefer Yashur.
The book.
That's right, the book of Jasher.
Oh, yes.
The word Sefer is from Chaldee, okay? Chaldee. Chaldee. It's an old number. Chaldee number. The word sapphire comes from that. Sapphire. Something written, something scribed. From the number of your souls. Look at that word. Nafashotikem. The word nephesh comes from that word. Nephesh. It's second person masculine plural. From the souls of each man, to whom in his tent, the tent of him. They all lived in tents. How many people lived in tents? Different societies. How many people lived in tents or in what we call little temporary dwelling places that you could move around? There are Arabs today that will not live in anything but tents. They lived in tents. Bi'ahalo. When I was in the Middle East in 1975 and 76, we were down by Jericho. And there was a story that was a true story about a princess. That her father had raised her out in the wilderness in these great big sprawling Bedouin tents. And she had married this prince. And this prince had a palace down at Jericho. And Jericho is like Hollywood. Okay? You know, in Southern California, we've got the best weather in the world down there. I mean, it's summer all year long, just about. Beautiful, beautiful weather. And that's like Jericho. Jericho is right down there especially in the wintertime. That's beautiful country. It's bordered by wilderness all over, but Jericho means the place of palm trees and plants, and it's like a Garden of Eden. Okay, it's still like that today. Flowers all over the place. Even in the wintertime, they're all blooming, beautiful down there. And so this prince built a beautiful palace down there out of rock and had mosaic all in all the rooms, great big flowing springs, fountain inside. The fountains inside of these big palaces were like air conditioners. You go in there and a bubbling fountain inside. And every day the girl would get up and she would go out there in the courtyard and cry many, many tears. And her husband would come and say, why are you crying? I've given you everything. Look at your jewelry. Look what all you have. Your clothing, everything else. Look what happened. She said, I miss the desert. I miss living in the tents. I miss that life. Now this is the kind of life that Israel was going to have. The Indians, when they put them in one place, they didn't like it. They didn't like living in prisons in a little piece of ground because they wandered all over. They were nomadic life. They lived nomadic life. These nomads don't want to change their lives. They don't want to change. Now they were going to become nomads. And they had lived a sedentary lifestyle in Egypt. Now they're going to become the nomads that they were before, that Jacob was, that Abraham was. Nomads. Now Abraham wasn't a nomad to begin with, was he? Where did Jacob live? I mean, not Jacob, but Abraham. The Ur of the Chaldees. What was the Ur of the Chaldees like? Go back. Huh? It was a sophisticated society. The largest libraries in the world were in the Ur of the Chaldees. They had running water. They had all of these great big palaces and buildings there and everything else, but it was also plagued with paganism. And God had to get Abraham out of that. So he called him out of this civilization, and Abraham became a nomad. And he lived the rest of his life as a nomad, pulling up tent stakes and moving from place to place, pulling up tent stakes. And not only would they be pulling up tent stakes, but they would be pulling up tent stakes and moving their tents and following the grass until Jacob went to Egypt. And they were down in Egypt how long? 400 years, and they got used to this living in buildings and eating all of this fancy food down in an irrigated land. They lived out in the wilderness where God provided rain and the grass, and they had to move their cattle, the big cattle and the little cattle. By the way, Abraham had elephants, he had horses, he had camels, he had all kinds of animals. So did Esau. They had large animals of all sorts, and they had to follow the grass because these animals eat a lot of grass. So they had to follow the pasture wherever it was, moving all the time. You couldn't live in one place because you had to follow pasture for the animals that you had. And they had a lot of animals. Remember when Abraham and Lot had to separate? Because the land could not sustain the animals. So they had to spread out and go different directions. And so now, for several hundred years, Abraham and his children had become nomads. Then they went down into Egypt and they become sedentary people again, living in big cities and the bright lights. And now as God is going to move them out of the bright lights and big city into the wilderness to become nomads again, because he's training them, right? In his tent. And you shall keep on taking, all right? You shall keep on taking. They shall keep on taking manna. Manna, what is it? 16 and verse 17 now, 16, 17. Wayasu ken b'nai Yisrael. Wayel gettu. Ha marbe. We hamanit. Wayasu. And they did. They did. And they did. Third person masculine plural, cal, wow, consecutive, and perfect. It's got an and on the front of that. See that wow on the front of that? This thing here like this, that means and. What is and in Greek? Page 280. Time. This one little letter in Hebrew takes place of this in Greek. Okay? Hebrew, like I said, is shorthand. Shorthand. Hebrew evolved from almost hieroglyphics. as we have shown you the old Hebrew. The old Hebrew meant different things, and we looked at each Hebrew letter which meant something. What was that piece of rock that showed them the difference of all the ancient language which they do not know how to decipher? The Rosetta Stone. All right, the Rosetta Stone, which had these languages all together. And they did ken, which means in this manner. They did in this manner the sons, B'nai, the sons of Israel. And they kept on gathering, or they gathered and kept on gathering, one making much, and the one making small. This is personalities. 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 We have lazy people, and we have energetic people. That little girl back there, Christine, I'm going to tell you something. That girl's she's atomic powered. That gal can get with it, and you push your children just like you. They follow you along and work like that, just moving on. I mean, they can get out and do things. They do things. They live out there on a little farm, and they do it. They've come over there and helped me a time or two. I'll have a mess out there that I could not, in any way in the world, get it done. And they go out there like an army, and it's gone, just like that. Energy. People with energy, and people that the lice fall asleep and fall off of them because they never move. Or the lice are moving faster than they are, and they crawl off of them. People that are lazy. Lazy people. So the lazy people didn't gather much, and those that were greedy, energetic, they gathered much. But in the end, we're going to find out what happens. The one making much, making great, masculine and singular Hiphil participle, and the one making small, masculine and singular Hiphil participle. One is Rabah, and the other is Misat. 16 and verse 18. Wayamadu. Ba Omar. Wilo. Hidith. Ha Marbe. We Ham Mamit. Lo. He Chaser. Ish. Lefi. Akalo. Lekatu. Now let's look at each one. And they measured. And they measured and kept on measuring. Third person masculine, plural, Calwell, consecutive, imperfect. And then we have the word Ba-Omar. Ba-Omar. Let's look at this word. Let's tear it down. Ba-Omar. Ba-Omar. What's in this word? What's on the front of that word? What Hebrew letters on the front of it? A Beth. Beth is also a preposition. And it also is the root of the name house, Beth. Beth, house. Okay? But right here it's a preposition. And it means in or by. All right? In or by. And then it says Omar. And how much is Omar? How much is Omar? It's 2 quarts. It's a measure. It comes right out. We didn't change it. It's Omar, 2 quarts. Welo. Welo. Let's look at that word. Brother Abe, what is welo? Tear that word down for me. What's on the front of that word? We, which is and then we have lo. We have okay, and we have lo. That word right there. What is this word here? And what? Adverb of negation. Notly. And notly. Literally, in English, it would be notly. Okay? And notly. All right? And notly. He had surplus. He had surplus. Third person masculine and singular. Hiphil participle. Or Hiphil perfect, that is. Not he had surplus. The one making much, look at that one, the one making much, ha marbe'eh, The one making much, masculine singular participle, hithel, still. And the one making little. The one making little. Not adverb of negation. He had been caused to lack. Nothing had caused him to lack. Sometimes lazy people eat more than energetic people. All right? And sometimes energetic people don't eat very much. And sometimes they eat a lot. But no matter what each person did, they didn't lack. No matter what. The food was there. They had snacks. They had their dessert and they had their meat. They had their dessert and they had their meat. All right? Not he had caused each man to mouth, to eat. He had eats, goodies. He had eats, to eat him. All right? We're talking about the manna. Manna is masculine. He had plenty to eat. And they had gathered. Third person construct plural, cal perfect. And they had gathered. Let's do one more verse. I'm going to turn you loose on the world. 16 and verse 19, unless you have a question. Wayomer, Moshe, Alahem, Ish, Al, Yoter, Mimenu, Ad, Boker. All right? And he said, third person, masculine, singular, cal, wow, consecutive, and perfect. What is and on the front of that word? That wow. Wayomer. All right? It's from Amer. All right? Wayomer. Third person, masculine, singular, cal, wow, consecutive, and perfect. Moses, Moshe, to them, Alihem. Alihem is a preposition with a suffix on it. It's a preposition, all, and that's page 39, by the way. I didn't write it down there, but it's 39. And then we have Alihem. Hem there is third person masculine plural. He said to them, each man, not, he did leave. He did leave. Not he did leave or allow to leave. Third person masculine singular, hifel, jusive. What's that jusive mean there, brother? Brother Otter? Jusive.
So it was a choice.
That is volition. Jusive there is volition. His own personality is involved here. This is what we call volition. Voluntary freedom of choice. Okay? And then we have the word mimenu. According to a portion of him. Now this word menu there comes from, it means divided. This is a mathematical term, Cindy. All right? This means a number, a quantity, a part of a whole. Okay? This is a divisionary number, a part of a whole. So he didn't lack in any quantity, not even a little bit. Not a quarter, not a third, not a 16th, not a 32nd did he lack. Not a 3/4, see. No portion did he lack. Until the break of day. He didn't lack anything until the break of day. They could get up and snack at midnight, and they'd have food there. And they could snack and snack and snack, and it wouldn't go away. It just kept on being there. How would you like to have a pantry like that? Huh? One that won't go away. It just won't go away. Do you have any questions? Yes.
So even though they only collected an Omar per person, no matter how much they ate, that Omar was still available until morning?
That's right.
Oh.
It didn't go away. They might have only gathered 2 quarts, but that 2 quarts stretched. That 2 quarts is kept stretching.
The quail, did they get quail every night or just that first night?
Well, the quail they got at that first night, but evidently the quail kept coming in also. Where did we start tonight? 6:12. 6:12. 6:13. 16, 13 through 20. We're running out of pages here. I'm trying to get more of it done. And how are we doing on Jonah?
It's pretty much done.
Pretty much done. How much more do you like?
few verses.
A few verses, and is it more than one volume or just one volume?
I'm trying to get it more.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to give you a little, break. We're going to go into Jonah when I can get it here. We're just going to take one class and go into Jonah just for a little bit from Hebrew. Okay? I gave you one Jeremiah here a while back, one class on Jeremiah. Now we're going to do a little class on Jonah. And in the meanwhile, I'm doing this here also. I hope that I can get this printed for you. I don't know whether I can or not, but I think I can. I'm going to go down here and do the masters, but they have to print them. So I guess since John Shirley and all that problem, he had with the stroke and everything, Karen was she was a dynamo and doing all that stuff. So she got all this stuff done for you. I would do the masters and she would print them for you and get them all in the little booklets and everything. I may have to do all that now. Like I'm the webmaster and everything, all of a sudden just everything at once. Just one more job. Anyway, any other questions? Schrader, you got a question? No? Christine, more questions? Sharon, Cindy? No? Brother A, got a question? How about dynamis? Dynamite, power, exousia. All right. Brother Roger?
It would be boring for others, but I still don't get while consecutive. I get cow.
Okay. Call stem is the active, like active voice.
Yeah.
Okay. While consecutive and perfect, now we have imperfect, don't we? Imperfect tense means going on. While consecutive and perfect is a shorter period of time, but it's completed, so to speak, but it kept going for a while. It's like second aorist in Greek, kind of like that a little bit. Not exactly. It's not punctiliar action, but it's a durative period of time when they kept on doing it. It's just like you heard a speech. The speech is over in it, but you heard it. You heard the whole speech, 1 hour of it or whatever it was. The president or so whoever was talking, or you went to a funeral, you heard the message. And it was for a period of time, and it was durative linear for that time, but it's finished. Okay? That's while consecutive and perfect. Okay? That help you a little bit?
Yeah.
Imperfect tense means it continued to go on, continued. That's like the imperfect tense in Hebrew and Greek. He can NRK ein hologer. In beginning, he kept on being the Jehovah. See that? That's imperfect tense. Anything else? Let's go out and do something eternal. Who's going to dismiss us in prayer? Christine, you want to? Well, you want Schrader to come up here? Schrader turned red. We won't do that to him. He might not ever help me again when I need him. All right.
Heavenly Father, I just thank you for tonight, Lord, and I thank you for this study and for Dr. Jim, Lord, and for everybody that's present here, Father. I just pray that you'll bless us and help us to hide these words in our heart and dig out more and study more and learn more and then use that, Father, to glorify you and to lead people to you. We ask this in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.